Okay, so knowing what your overhang and your wall type and all these kinds of things, you'll have to play with those. And that just depends on how your construction is made. Now, we have an issue in a roof like this. The brick doesn't go all the way up into the roof. Okay, the I'm gonna have to deal with that. But before I go further with that, if let's look at our wall here. Okay, the cut on the end of the rafter. We've just kind of kept with plumb cut. I'm gonna do it on this one over here so we can see. Now then, most fascia boards are a 1 by 6. Okay, and can I measure? So as we can see there, we got 9 3/8 to that point, 10 and 5/32. Most fascia boards are a 1 by 6. So let's look at our roof here, and let's change this to a 2 cut plumb, and our fascia depth. Now let's measure that again. So it's taking it fascia based on that. Okay. Um, which in a lot of instances will be okay, except for most of the time when we apply a soffit across the bottom, we're going to have the thickness of the soffit material, which is typically 3/8 inch plywood. But then when there's always a little gap between those. Okay. So we would have to adjust that. So our fascia depth is probably going to be more like 5 inches because it's taking it from the very top corner of the roof. Okay. So let's just for giggles, let's apply a fascia to that. I don't want a 1 by 12 though. Okay. So now we can see it applied the fascia, but it puts it right at the very top corner of the roof, which doesn't happen like that because the roofing material, the shingles, uh, are going to hang over. We want them to hang over the fascia. Let's go back to our section view. Okay, so this is the roof shingles. It's actually going to hang over the top of the fascia board. So we would want to offset that down. Um, let's go 1/4 of an inch. Oh, -1/4. Needs to be a little bit more. And a lot of times the fascia is actually installed closer to the bottom of the plywood because we want those shingles to come straight out. And oftentimes there'll be a piece of flashing put right here that covers that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now what kind of a distance do we have here? We got 1 1/4 inch. That's too much. We want 3/8. We want about 7/8 of an inch to 1 inch. Um, 1 1/8. That's still too much. One inch. Yeah, that would probably work, but I'd feel better with. I'm getting bogged down in details here, aren't I? Okay, so that would give me enough room for my 3/8 inch soffit to come back across, and about a half inch, maybe a little less than a half inch of space below that. So that's how a fascia would work, and the rafter would actually be cut and clipped like that. For this is normal, typical residential type stuff. Okay, and so that's how that's going to work. Okay, now let's look at this wall over here because um, I want to edit that roof. I shouldn't have made it a hip roof because it makes the sections look kind of weird. Okay, so let's um, let's go ahead and change that from a plumb cut down to a square, and we'll just make it 5.5. Just whoa, I didn't want square. Sorry, plumb. Okay, now then our brick would actually come up, to the bottom of the soffit level. And in order to do that, and this may be a little, I can't remember if we covered this in the wall videos or not, but I'm going to show you how to make this fix. And because in your 1129 class, you'll have to do that. What we have to do is we have to edit the wall type. Well, this one's already been edited. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. So you go edit type, whatever wall you're using. You want to go to structure, you want to edit the structure, and click your preview. And we want to go to section, modify wall type attributes. And you can do this at the top and at the bottom, but we're going to zoom in at the top. And you want to click modify. And then you want to click on that outer boundary of your brick, and it will be locked if you haven't made a change yet. So you want to unlock that, and then do the same thing with the airspace. In this case, this one has an airspace, so you would unlock it. You see the stud is locked, and the sheathing and the drywall on the inside are locked. And then you would OK and save those things. And what that does is when we come to here, normally you're going to have one arrow for adjusting the profile, but now we have two, and we can pull that brick level down. And this it's going to take a little playing because you would put your soffit in, and it would be a little bit below the soffit, and a piece of trim would cover that. But that's how you deal with those, and you have to do it in your section view in order to get that right. Now these walls were, when I put these walls in, I made them, constrain them to the roof level, okay, as opposed to being unconstrained. And then, excuse me, here in your 3D view, you can select those two end walls, the gable walls, and you can attach them to the roof, okay, and it'll fill in that gable. Now it may, because they were constrained to that top, the roof level, it didn't ask me when I built the roof. If they were unconstrained with just a height, it would have asked you, do you want to attach them to the roof? All right. In a case like this, having a hard time with my zoom here. Yeah, that's okay, because we would have a series of trim that comes down and covers those edges. If nothing else, we can adjust that intersection